Hey everyone, it's Richard Solomon, and I wanted to bring you a bonus video in this PhD Chronicles. Somebody just corrected me, um, the way I pronounce and. Anyway, and so I wanted to start it though, or I want to start it with some corrections. So in an earlier video, I mentioned Professor Brinsley Samaru, and I erroneously connected him to the University of Trinidad and Tobago. He is Professor Emeritus. He's retired now, I believe, but certainly from the University of the West Indies and not the University of Trinidad and Tobago. So that's one. Also, I mentioned when I did my apps video, I mentioned OpenOffice. Actually, it is Office Libre. Office Libre, which is like free Office because Libre is free. And it is a free open source software, and it syncs with, or it talks to Zotero. I use Zotero as my referencing manager. So that's two. And I did not mention in that apps video as well that of course you can use a software like Dropbox to back up your work. But you need something to back up your work. You should be very, very careful and judicious with that. You don't want to lose your work. Okay, so those errors taken care of and out of the way. I wanted to talk about some shortcuts and some tips. Now, let me be clear at the outset. When I say shortcuts as it relates to academic work, we're not talking about cutting corners of the academic work. You can't do that. Now, there are corners that people cut. People sometimes get other people to write for them. It is not recommended. It is unethical. You should not do it, because what you are actually doing is cheating the process, and you're going to run into trouble with that. More than likely, your committee will pick up on the fact that this is not your work, because it is supposed to be your own work. Now, you can get help, so I'll talk about that in a minute, but you certainly can't hire someone to do the work for you. So when I say shortcuts, I'm talking about things and tips that will help you to be more efficient, maybe cut time in certain areas, but does not compromise on the quality of your work. All right, so let's go. First of all, record your work. And when I say record, sometimes when I'm driving or late at night, more so early in the morning, a thought will come to mind, some things will synthesize. That happens a lot. So I may be reading something, and it was a paper I read earlier in the day or earlier in the week, and then I realize there's something from that was synthesized neatly with another part of the work. I want to make a note of that immediately. So if I'm on the road, it has happened to me, I've pulled aside, just take a few seconds, write it down, record it on the phone, just so that I don't lose it. Yeah. If I'm in bed and something comes to mind, very often this happens to me very early in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. A thought is in my head. I may have gotten up for a drink of water or something, and a thought is in my head. So I'm going to make a note of that. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, I want to write it down, because it really is annoying when you know you had a good idea and you didn't write it down, and then you're trying to remember what the idea was, and then you feel like, oh, I've missed out on something. Yeah, you probably have, because you didn't make a note of it. So record it. Sort of a point B to that, or maybe a second point, don't trust your memory. And if you've got a great memory, and if you can easily recall lots and lots of detail from a long time ago, more power to you, but that's not me. I forget things, things slip away from my conscious memory. So I write things down, I record them, I don't trust my memory. I'm making notes all over the place. I make notes in all kinds of places. Try not to make them in too many places so that I won't be able to find the notes, but I do make notes. So I said in an earlier video, I have a notebook that I got from a client. Shout out to my friends at Tantalus that I use, and it's a nice notebook, so I can hold on to that. So that's one. But I'll tell you, like right here in this book, I can show you the book. This book is From Columbus to Castro. This is written by Dr. Eric Williams, first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and gives a nice history of From Columbus to Castro. That's not what I wanted to show you so much, but what I did want to show you was notes on an envelope. I must have been somewhere, and this is what I had, so I just wrote it down. And I put it in the book. I'm not going to lose it, and then because I'm not ready to use it just yet. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a picture of the note, and then I'll attach it to a document so that when I'm ready to use it, I can come back and I can use it. So that's a second one. Don't trust your memory. Thirdly, a nice shortcut: use videos. You can also use books in video form. So there's a lot on YouTube and there's a lot on the internet on the whole. You have to be cautious of that, obviously, and I talked about that before when I talked about the pyramid of literature, or the literature pyramid. So you don't want to just grab any old video. However, if you are convinced that the source of the video is solid. So for example, I used a video from Professor Porter. He writes on competitiveness, and he is an economist, I believe. He's a professor. He was speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, I think in 2011. And there was just one bit of that video that was very useful for me where he equated competitiveness, now this is of a nation, to its productivity. Very useful for my work. It really is a hinging point for me. So I can use that. I've used videos from Dr. David Mohammed, a lot of good historical information. I have used videos from the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Again, lots of good historical information. You want to look at the source. I've used videos from the BBC. Again, you want to look at the source. It's not enough that someone is saying it. There's a particular video on African history that I subscribe to, a video channel on YouTube. The individual, I think, does really, really good work, but generally he doesn't say where he gets his stuff from, so that I can't be sure that I can rely on what he is saying. So while I use that in my my personal consumption of content, but I won't use that for my academic work. But videos condense information so that you can have that digested quickly as opposed to having to read a more lengthy document. In addition, there is also a trend now on YouTube where books will be read out and posted as videos. So for example, They Came Before Columbus by Ivan van Sertima. It's been around for some time. Someone read the entire work and posted it on YouTube. Now, I can't speak to the copyright issues and infringement issues on that. That's not where I'm gonna go. I'm just saying that if you want to digest content, sometimes you can use that. Now, if I'm going to rely on a video of a book, meaning someone is reading it, I want to have access to the book to ensure that the data or the information I'm using is credible. I don't want the situation where someone has put something in there, misread it, or interpreted it wrongly, and then I rely on their work. Yeah? So those are some things to look out for. But videos can be very, very helpful. Ask the specialists for help and guidance. More than likely, and in my case, you will encounter lots of different types of information. I said in an earlier video, history, psychology, business, economics, and many others. Politics. These are all things that come into the work that I am doing. And because all of these come into the work that I am doing, I'm not an expert in all of these areas. But where I can access someone who is, it can be very, very useful. Not that they will do the work. They won't do the work for me, but certainly they will be able to point me in the right direction. So I remember speaking with Dr. David Mohammed. I just mentioned his name again. Dr. Patrice Paris, and many others, Dr. Rian Singh from the University of the West Indies, and many others. Very often, I'm just asking a question, or I'm just saying, give me your thoughts on whatever it is. And usually, people who are in the academic field are happy to talk about their research and help other academics in their own pursuits and their own work. In addition to that, you can ask the experts who have written academic literature. So for example, if you read a journal, a journal article rather, every article will have contact information for the author or the authors of the article. At least you will get email addresses, and you can certainly just send out an email and ask a question. I have had experts in the field respond to my emails, just directly respond to my emails and say, I think this, you can do that, you can use this, you should do that, I recommend so and so. You can do the same with reports. So for example, there are reports that will come from the World Bank, from in our own case, our central bank, our Central Statistical Office, the World Economic Forum. Shoot an email. People do respond. I've written to the World Economic Forum. I wanted clarification on a particular pillar in the Global Competitiveness Index and to ask them how come they were doing it this way versus that. And they were happy to quickly, in hours, within a few hours, they were happy to quickly respond. So you're not alone in that regard. You certainly can ask questions. And as I said before, researchers, writers, they're happy to put you in the right direction, point you in the right direction. Of course, the work is yours to be done. Last one. Lots of journals are not publicly available. Lots of journal articles have to be paid for. And even if you have a subscription through your university, sometimes you will not be able to access all the journal articles that you want. There is a site called SciHub, SCI- so Science Hub, HUB. I use REN. There's several of them. And there's a lot of debate in the community whether this site should exist or not. I'm just saying that it exists, and the world knows that it exists. And usually, you can use the DOI number of an article, which you tend to get off of most search engines, even if you use Google Scholar. Google Scholar will usually or very often give you the DOI. I use the Electronic Library Services of the University of Trinidad and Tobago and our own National Library Services. And when I search for an article, or I do a search and I find an article, usually the DOI, the document identifier for that article, is listed in the information that I get. I then take that DOI, it always starts with 10, I copy that and I put it into the SciHub search, and SciHub will return, most times, I'd say 97 or 8% of the times, it will return a full PDF document of the entire article that you just have to click download. When you download it, make sure and file it already in the right place, all right, so that you can find it later on. But SciHub, and that's for free. I've read that the people who have put up SciHub have been sued and there are lawsuits pending and all the rest of it. This is a debate in the academic community. It's not something for me to fight about. I know it's there. It's a resource. I got it from one of our lecturers, actually. It's widely used and it's widely known. It's widely used and it's widely known. Someone was telling me I was talking too fast. So I get a little bit excited. But these are some shortcuts, some tips that I have found to be very useful. And whether you're doing doctoral work or you're doing any other kind of postgraduate or even postgraduate work, yes, certainly. These are some tips that will help, that should help. These are not ones I've gotten from anyone. It's more so things that I've discovered on my own. And certainly the SciHub, I was pointed to that, as I said, by one of our lecturers, and many academics use it. So I hope these were useful. Bonus video, tips and, what did I call it? Tips and shortcuts. Tips and shortcuts. Good shortcuts, not bad shortcuts. Good shortcuts to help you be more efficient and more effective in your research and your work as an academic and certainly as a postgraduate student. All right? So more power to you. Richard Solomon, thanks for listening. Subscribe. See you soon.